Well, hey artists, designers, sculptors, welcome back to Miss Raga's Art Room. So let's talk carving. All right, you are required on your design to use at least one element, okay, or have an area that uses subtractive sculpture. Subtractive sculpture just means instead of adding more clay on, now we're going to use our carving tools, okay, to actually carve clay away. All right, so here's what you want to do. First, you're going to determine where your carving is going to go. And you want to initially prep the surface using the silicone end of some of these smoothers, using the back end of a wood tool, using just your finger, okay, to prep and smooth out some of the tool marks on the surface, right? We want to show off our carving and not just, you know, have like tool marks in there that we're like, wait, is that purposeful? Is that not right? You want to prep your surface. Give yourself a good surface to carve into. Then, using your stylus tool or the end of one of these little carvers, lightly sketch in the shape or letter or whatnot that you want to carve. That way, if you don't like the shape, you can finger smooth it, or again, use the end of the rubber smoother, okay, the sculpting tools to smooth that out, your finger, right, to get rid of it so that before you go and carve deep, you know, you're not like making a big mark that's really difficult to get out. Okay, once you carve the clay away, it's gone. At this point, the clay's in leather hard stage. We really can't do any more additive. The clay is now drying at such vastly different rates that it would be really difficult for us to get a good, proper joint. Okay, so all additive needs to be done. The reason we do this, ladies and gentlemen, is not just because I'm like, ha 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 ha, your additive has to be done. No, we always carve second because the odds are with additive sculpture, we're going to eventually end up accidentally like squishing that carving or getting slip into that carving or accidentally scoring over that carving mark, and then we just end up redoing it anyway. It just makes practical sense to finish all the additive work and then start going to that refined detail with the carving. Okay, so in my case, I'm actually carving this kind of cool lumpy bumpy texture on my paint splotches because I want it to feel distinctly different than the smooth surface of my mug and the wood texture of my paint palette. Okay, so I'm using the loop tool for that. Actually, you could use the end of the stylus tool. You could use these little refined stylus balls for that. These are kind of like, think of these kind of like pen points but without any ink. In my case, for the texture I want to create, I'm just using this loop tool. I'm just kind of like chipping and picking away at little sections of the clay to give it that texture. Now you're going to get a lot of clay crumbles. Make sure you're working over the canvas, or if you're really creating a lot of them, sometimes it's best to get a paper towel because it just makes your cleanup easier. That way you just pick up your paper towel and all your little clay crispies here that are going to get very dry and are not good for reclaim, and we can actually just like pick them up and pop them into the trash, okay? If you find a lot of crispies are sticking to your surface, come get one of these fluffy watercolor wash brushes from me, okay? And it can help you to kind of like dust some of those crispies and crumbles out as you're carving. So you don't want those crispies and crumbles to get stuck into your clay because then it just makes for more smoothing work. Makes it more difficult actually. And so I'm just kind of nipping away at the surface and getting those clay crispies out and creating that texture. So I'm going to do this all over the full surface. Go back in and do any refined line work as well. You can see I've already done some refined line work using the ends of the stylus here for carving in on those bristle areas. Okay, I can even get like my little chisel end in to help smooth out some of that carving as well because we don't want any of those crispies interfering with how our glaze adheres to the surface. Okay, and I'm going to continue on with the refined carve work. Okay, so join me back in a moment to see how this wraps. All right, and we're back. My goodness, okay, you can see the mess I've made with carving here, but I've got the majority of that carve work done. You know, there are still some areas I'm going to go back and touch up with like these detail tools to really get into like the grooves and crevices, even of like my texture area where maybe I've lost some of that detail, right, and to clean some things up. But for the most part, carve work is done. Once my carve work is done, I'm ready to start moving on to finishing work and the finishing smooth. And that's where we're going to be using our silicone rubber tools to start brushing out tool marks. Okay, rubbing out tool marks using our fingers, cleaning out any clay crispies we see, and really working the surface of the clay to get a beautiful refined finish. So join me in my next video, 2 parts for working with the rubber smoothers as well as doing a wet brush finish smooth on your clay surface. All right, thanks for joining me in the art room today. See you soon. Bye-bye.